So what if the very app that is actually meant to protect you ended up leaking your information to the entire internet? That's not just hypothetical because it actually just happened. About 72 million images and 1 million sensitive messages were gotten through the T dating safety app. Apparently, this app here, the T app, I think it was designed for women only. The goal of the application was to help protect them from dangerous men. So that was the entire point of the application. As I'm moving through the website, it did that through a couple of ways: background check, cat image search, and so on and so forth. But then we can see here that it ended up leaking their information. So this includes their driver's license, their location, selfies, and their images. Like in the first place, like I don't know if it's a good idea to upload your driver's license just to any app like that in the first place. But let's see how this was done. So there's some tweets here that you can see like some of the images of the people that were using the application. And then in another tweet, you can actually see their location. So someone actually ran a Python script that grabbed all the images, and the images it seemed to contain the metadata. And metadata is just something that when you take a picture of an image, especially on an iPhone, you can see the location where the image was taken. You can see the phone it was taken. You can see the dates, and yeah, that's basically what metadata is. The metadata, someone used it to make Google pinpoints for all their locations. This was a few days ago, and then I think just yesterday on the second database, people were able to get access to 1 million messages that were sent through the application. So let's look at how this possibly could have happened. The reason for the hack was because they were using Firebase as the database, and the Firestore database was unsecure. By default, when you start using Firebase and you create a Firestore database, I used Firebase I think last year. Security rules are very like lax, so anyone can access your database. So it's your responsibility as a software developer to go there and actually change the rules. This is probably how it looked like on their database. So anyone with access to the URL for the database could actually just click on it and get all the information. I don't even think it's a hack. I just think like it was irresponsibility on the part of the software engineers. And then I saw some tweets, people saying it was vibe coded, but I don't think that's the case. I just feel like it was just a mistake on a very big mistake on the part of the engineers behind the application. So let's talk about how this could have been prevented. The first thing I want to talk about is that you always have to secure your Firebase buckets. This doesn't always apply to Firebase, so it applies to any application that's like a backend as a service, including Postgres. Let's say you use your next public URL because you have to use it on the front end, and anything you do on the front end can be seen by everyone. When you put your new next public URL in the front end, anyone can use the URL. But what you're meant to do as a developer, meant to go to rule level security and make sure it's enabled so that only you and your application can actually connect to your backend. So that's the first thing that could have been done. The second thing you're meant to do is you're meant to minimize the risk if your application is hacked into. And what do I mean by this? There's no need to store metadata from things like images. So when you get an image and you want to store it in a database, you have to strip it of the metadata before you store it. When you look at this map, the only reason why people were able to get access to their location was because the images that were uploaded to the database weren't stripped of their metadata. So the hacker had access to not just their image or their driver's license, the hackers always also had access to their location. So you're supposed to always strip your metadata from the images. Now, data minimization. What I mean by this is that you don't have to store unnecessary information. The reason why people had to take pictures was to verify that they were women. So if you took pictures, right? If you took a picture or a selfie of a person and you took a picture of their driver's license, and you ran an algorithm to see if they were women, there was no need for you to store it on the back end. That's why I don't understand why they did that. Well, I don't know too much about the application, but I'm just wondering why they did that. And the last thing is encryption. If you're storing things like messages, because I think yesterday 1.1 million messages were leaked, you're supposed to encrypt the images using like an encryption algorithm. You have a secret key, and or you can even make it end-to-end encryption. So you're supposed to make sure that the messages are encrypted. So even if your database was hacked, the information is encrypted. So there's not really a lot they could do with the information. Now, I think there are two important lessons from this whole story. The first lesson is like a generous lesson to anyone. There's nothing really anonymous on the internet, so be careful about what information you share on the internet. That's the first lesson I'll say that goes for everybody. And then the second lesson is for software developers specifically, and especially now that now with the new AI tools, a lot of people just want to ship very fast. People want to vibe code, but you have to be very careful that what you're doing, the application you're making is secure because it's people's information that you're putting on the line. So you have to make sure that you're building with security in mind, especially from the start. That's all I have to say in this video. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.